stupid right now. I'm so good with cards like that I've played before, but it's been 16 years.
2 blue counterspells.
15 years.
2 blue counterspells in that. Can you remember either one?
UU5 Affinity.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the name of it. And there's a blue and 2 equal number of artifacts.
So you know, yeah, you know, okay. You don't know the names, but Assert Authority.
Yes.
And Overload.
It's just called Overload?
Yep.
What is happening?
Oh, so Ben's going off.
What is happening? The game's already over.
He's got Mem Knights. He's got, well, it might be over. He's got Mem Knights. He's got Cranial Plating. So this is why it's a little surprising that this deck isn't seeing much play anymore, because like this is a thing that is still good.
Yeah, and he also just has Edge Champion in hand. So if Andrew Jessup was just playing like a Jund deck or a deck with traditional spell removal, Ben could just cast Edge Champion, suit up with Cranial Plating, and just ignore all of that hate.
Yeah, if he was playing, if Andrew was playing Jeskai Control, for example, might be over. And then Edge Champion, we'll see if Ben Ragan's going to cast it next turn or not, because obviously he wants to equip the Cranial Plating. But as Andrew Jessup continues on with his turn and plays an Ancient Stirrings off of that Chromatic Sphere, he's obviously in a little bit of trouble. It'd be much better for Ben Ragan if he was on the play, but he is where he is, and Andrew is going to take a look at the top 5 cards of his deck.
Yeah, this matchup is a pure race, and I think Ben has a great start for this type of a game. Turn 1 Cranial Plating is exactly where you want to be. Ooh, but Andrew Jessup perhaps going to put a kink in the works with that Engineered Explosive.
This is less good for Ben Ragan. Less good. Now, Andrew Jessup's land is colorless, so if he wants to set the Cranial Plating on 2, it might be a little bit difficult.
I mean, they don't have trouble with that kind of stuff. They have Terrarions, and they have Chromatic Stars and the whatnot. They can do it pretty easily.
Speaking of Terrarion, it has shown up as we head back over to Ben Ragan. Now, Ben's got a real decision to make here. Do I want to equip Mem Knight and get in here, or do I want to deploy Edge Champion? You deploy Edge Champion, you're dealing a lot less damage in the short term, and you need to make this game as short as possible. But, as you mentioned, Engineered Explosives is going to make things difficult here for Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think the joke is that the Engineered Explosives almost has to be on X equals 2, but Andrew is still a little short of being able to cast and explode it without drawing a Mox Opal next turn. I think that Ben's best bet is to just go for maximum amount of damage over the short term and hope that Andrew doesn't have access to a Mox Opal next turn to take care of the plating. If Andrew does just go Explosives for X equals 0, Ben can choose to equip the Cranial Plating to the Vault Scourge and still punch in for quite a bit of damage.
So we're going to see a Vault Scourge come down here. And Ben actually paid 2 life for the Vault Scourge, even though he could hard cast it, so that he could then equip and then re-equip and pass the turn back.
Yeah, his life total, of course, not really a factor here against the infinite damage of Clan Ironworks combo.
So now we're going to head back over to Andrew Jessup, and I kind of like this play that Ragan made, because now he's got a 2-drop that's wearing the plating, and now, naturally, right, if Andrew wants to set the Ironworks on 2, or excuse me, if he wants to set the Explosives on 2, sure, but does he have enough mana to actually play and blow it up in the same turn, which will require a Mox Opal?
Yeah, and he's also cracking this Terrarion here to dig, which leads me to believe that he does not have a Mox Opal right now and is just desperately searching for it to take care of both the Vault Scourge and the Cranial Plating this turn.
He's drawing a copy of Clan Ironworks. Green-blue floating here. Now he's going to play Yavimaya Coast.
If he plays it for X equals 0 here, he does get to take care of both Mem Knights and the Mox Opal, which does a significantly good job of hampering the total damage output of the Cranial Plating, and also just buys him enough time to maybe just cast Ironworks and go off next turn.
Inkmoth Nexus, Etched Champion in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of damage. So Jessup's going to go down to 7. Ragan will go up to 23. And so Ben will be able to presumably present lethal next turn.
Yep. Without access to another Engineered Explosives this turn, Andrew very likely facing death next turn. Definitely needs to try to put something together. Although I believe if Ben, he has a mountain in hand, if he doesn't draw an artifact next turn, there's a chance that he just can't present lethal if Andrew puts up, like, say, a Scrap Trawler in front of the Edge Champion.
Sure. Scrap Trawler will be able to block the Edge Champion, of course, because it's an artifact creature. Now, again, in Jessup's hand, we know he has a Clan Ironworks. Don't know if he has the 4th mana or not. He's going to do a little bit of math, see how much damage can be dealt. 2 from the Champion. Vault Scourge just dealt 5 last turn, so that's 7. That doesn't even put Inkmoth Nexus turning into an artifact into the equation, or whatever bench draw step is. So if you're Andrew, you're pretty confident that you're dead next turn, so it's time to make a move this turn. And we're going to see what that move is going to be, as he's going to start things off with a Yavimaya Coast. And now there's an Ironworks.
I will say this. Andrew does have access to a main deck Psy Master Thopterist.
Okay.
And I think that card is hugely important in this matchup. And he does have more after sideboard, which he can bring in. Those are going to be playing a huge role after sideboard here.
Chromatic Star got sacrificed to Ironworks. Now so did Darksteel Citadel. And off of the Chromatic Star draw, Andrew found a Scrap Trawler. So he's down to 1. Now he's going to play Terrarium. Now he's down to none. He'll sacrifice the Terrarium to the Ironworks and draw a card, getting back Engineer Explosives. Thank you, sir. You see, he's going to set up his graveyard a little bit so he knows exactly where things do stand. He draws a card, of course, from the Terrarium dying. And now it's an Ichor Wellspring with no mana floating. Draw a card. Going to sacrifice the Ichor Wellspring next, I have to imagine.
Yeah, and that's going to bring back a 1-mana artifact, whether that's Terrarion or Chromatic Star. Doesn't really matter. It's just going to draw a card and generate 2 mana, as well as bringing back the Engineer Explosives. So it's not infinite right now. Andrew's in a really good spot to go off. As long as his deck cooperates with him, I think he should be able to win this turn.
Explosives will come down for 0 and be sacrificed to Ironworks. Now here's Terrarion, going to go down to 3, up to 5. Trigger, get the explosives back from the Scrap Trawler, and draw a card. Buried Ruin, the draw there off of the cantrip. Still at 5. Ben Ragan is F6'd. There's the explosives will be sacrificed. He's up to 7 colorless now is Jessup. Nothing to return with that trigger from Scrap Trawler. Now it's a Spine of Isha.
Yeah, this is a really good card here for Andrew. Even if he doesn't go off completely this turn, he's able to basically take away the lethal threat from Ben's side. Spine of Isha just does a really great job with Scrap Trawler, though, of returning something like Ichor Wellspring, which keeps the chain going, and while returning to your hand and being able to be recast again over time.
Chromatic Star will be added. Ichor Wellspring being sacrificed. I'm not sure who added Spine of Isha. I'm not sure where that innovation came from. It's smart though.
Oh, it's very good.
Even though it is expensive, it's not too expensive for this deck. It's a really smart addition, and as you mentioned, it breaks you out of things. It takes care of the cranial plating to stop the lethal threat, and now that Andrew has found a Mox Opal, we are all done. So what was a pretty fast start there from Ben Ragan was not quite fast enough. Andrew Jessup's going to win game number 1 here over Ben Ragan. Ironworks up a game here over Affinity. We're going to go to the sideboard here for Ben. And I've got some cards that I like that he can bring in. 2 Bitter Blossom, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Damping Spheres, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Dispatch, a Rest in Peace, pardon me, an Experimental Frenzy, and a Grafdigger's Cage. I think the discard is pretty obvious there in the Thoughtseizes. But what else do you like here, Todd?
So I think any card that can interact with this linear combo from the Ironworks side of things is warranted. Spell Pierce, Wear Tear, these are all options. Rest in Peace can play a role, though it does turn off the Arcbound Ravager shenanigans of the Ben Ragan Affinity deck. So those are all of the options. I'm not sure exactly which ones he's going to prioritize. As an Affinity player, you don't want to board more than 4 or 5 cards in any given matchup because it starts to dilute your overall strategy. But I think Ben needs to keep in his Galvanic Blast in this matchup to be able to take care of Psy Master Thopterist out of the Ironworks deck, which means his ability to sideboard is going to be extremely limited without taking away from his overarching game plan.
Also, dealing 4. I don't hate dealing 4.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a flat-out race like you mentioned, and you saw part of the power, and you talked about this during the pregame show, you're a little tired of Ancient Stirrings. I get that. Ancient Stirrings is the reason that Jessup was able to win that game probably, right? Found the explosives.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps him find the missing piece to the puzzle every time. And the top 5 cards of your deck is a good amount of cards to see for 1 mana. And we've seen Ancient Stirrings in so many degenerate decks over the last 5 years that, you know, it honestly, I don't want to go too hard on it because people love their modern decks. I don't want them to ban Ancient Stirrings. I just want a fair playing field. If people get to play Ancient Stirrings, I get to play Ponder.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Reasonable. Stirrings looked great that game, though. Stirrings looked very good, but also Explosives is insane in this deck.
Oh, absolutely. Being a 0-mana artifact keeps chains going with Scrap Trawler to generate mana, but it also just gives you a main deck way to answer most of the cards that interact with your combo that are permanents. It also can just buy you a lot of time by sweeping up cheap creatures out of basically any opposing deck. We saw that game for 2 mana. Andrew was able to clean up a Mox Opal and 2 Memnites, which significantly shrunk the clock of Ben thanks to making his cranial plating worse.
Yeah. 4 Nature's Claim, 2 Galvanic Blast, 2 Lightning Bolt, 2 Negate, 2 Psy Master Thopterus, a Fire Spout, a Swansong, and a Tormhouse Crypt. Well, Jessup's got a lot of cards to bring in here, so I don't like where this is going for Ben.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew is probably going to be boarding out things like Mind Stone. He's going to go less about ramping and more towards interaction. And you're going to see things like Nature's Claim come in, Side Master Thopterus, probably the Fire Spout. I don't think he needs to lean too heavily on the Galvanic Blast or Lightning Bolt because of how powerful Nature's Claim is against all of the important threats from Ben's side. But yeah, I would look for Side Master Thopterus to play a huge role. He's going up to 3 total after board. The Fire Spout pretty good at buying him some time, and then Nature's Claim, of course, taking care of some of the hate artifacts that Affinity could play, as well as just slowing down Ben's clock by a significant amount.
All right, that's the sideboard options there for both players. Game number 2 going to be underway in just a moment here, but let's talk about the StarCityGames.com holiday sale, folks. It's going to be happening all month long and even into January. January 7th to be exact. Go.StarCityGames.com/holiday sales, where you're going to find hundreds of items at our lowest prices of the year. It's going to be updated daily. You see the Academy Rector, Demonic Tutor, Taiga, and Mana Drain, but we're going to add plenty of goodies all month long and all the way into January. Make sure you do bookmark and check out go.StarCityGames.com/holiday sale every day.
Love me some Academy Rector, for sure. Put in Omniscience, go ballistic.
It's almost time for more Affinity and more Ironworks. These players take a look at their opening hands, but I want to talk about a better game. I want to talk about Bingo, baby. I want to talk about where I'm at with Bingo.
Oh, you're so close.
I am very close, though. I'm not feeling confident about a player discarding Lingering Souls. That doesn't seem great for me.
So you need a Dredge 3 and a Rekindling Phoenix enters from the grave.
I don't know anyone's playing Rekindling Phoenix in this tournament.
Probably not.
Yep.
Yeah, discarding Lingering Souls, I don't see that happening. Traverse at Louisville, cast with Delirium. Yeah, no, like 0%.
All right, so I'm not doing great then.
Okay.
I'm not doing great. But how's Todd doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good,
I think you're doing pretty well. Okay, so Nicol Bolas. No, that's not happening.
Are you serious?
Nicol Bolas?
Have you seen Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, before? Okay.
Who's playing it in the tournament?
Smart people who have figured out that the only other card in Standard that's almost as good as Niv Mizzet is Nicol Bolas, the Ravager.
Okay.
It's better than Siege Rhino.
That's
what I wrote in an article once.
You still feel good about that?
No.
Yeah.
But it is very good.
It is very good. You got some work to do on your bingo board. I feel like I'm ahead just because I've got more spots, but I've got some work to do as well, so we'll be keeping track of that.
Wait, was my free space not marked?
Not yet.
Alabama.
All right, fine. We'll add that after the round.
Rainbow, Alabama.
That's right. Ben's going to go down to 6 cards here, see if he can find a little something better to work with. Keep in mind, as we work through this weekend, we've got 8 rounds of action to bring in. We're in round number 9 of 16 here. We're in the modern portion of day 2 of our Season 2 Invitational. After the first 4 rounds, we'll jump into Standard, of course, and those Standard rounds will decide who's going to make the top 8. And then tomorrow we're going to crown ourselves an Invitational champion and then get our eyes on that 10K Cube Championship. Some players are playing in those qualifiers right now to win a beautiful-looking Cube trophy.
Oh, it is great. It is a heavy brick of metal.
It is what we would call dense.
Yes. 12 pounds, 3 ounces. That's a murder weapon, folks.
That's dangerous. That is, wow. Wow, is that dangerous. Ben has a Springleaf Drum and an Ornithopter. Oh, we're doing it. It's a Signal Pest. All right, not a bad start. Going to have to maybe be on the Infect plan this game. We'll go over to, go back to Ben. Excuse me.
I don't mind relying on your lands to do some of the heavy lifting. You know, the life gain effects from Inventor's Fair can be a big turnoff for trying to deal regular damage. The Signal Pest early, pumping, said Inkmoth Nexus is pretty sweet.
That's exactly what the Battle Cry creature is going to do. It's going to pump up Ornithopter and Inkmoth Nexus, so Jessup's going to take it both ways, down at 19 and a little Infect damage. And we're going to pass the turn back over to Andrew, who kicked things off with an Inventor's Fair, as Todd did mention. Land number 2 is a Yavimaya Coast. And now we have an Ichor Wellspring. Jessup will draw a card.
just want to point out the fact that Andrew Jessup didn't play something like a Terrarion, Chromatic Star, Chromatic Sphere here on turn 1 leads me to believe that his plan in this game is to cast Sidemaster Thopterus and then on turn 4 explode with a bunch of Thopters.
We'll see if that's the case. And if that is the case, for what it's worth, Ben Ragan's going to have a real hard time winning. Because Ben Ragan does not have one of his payoff cards. I don't see an Overseer. I don't see a Plating. I don't see a Ravager. I just see another Nexus there. Not to say that Blinkmoth Nexus is bad, but not exactly what the doctor ordered.
Now Ben actually has to choose. Do you want to go for infect damage, or do you want to try to push as much regular damage as possible? Because he can activate a Blinkmoth and pump it.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be the route that he wants to go.
Ben is in the tank, as it were, to try to figure out what the best line is going to be here in this situation.
Another Springleaf Drum in hand. Not what he wants here. A little flooded. But that happens sometimes with a deck like Affinity. You're built to be explosive, and you want to draw your payoff cards. And if you don't, sometimes your deck just kind of does this.
Yep.
But it might be good enough. If Andrew doesn't play Sidemaster Thopterus next turn, Ben is presenting a lot of pressure. The Signal Pest represents a significant amount of damage.
And Ben is trying to figure out how he can get in the most damage and which way he wants to go. Does it want to be all direct, or does it want to be infect damage is the question here. That's why you see him taking some time with this turn. And it's important that he gets this right as he plays another copy of Springleaf Drum, because if you get this wrong and you give Andrew Jessup an additional turn, that's a great way to lose the game. So it looks like Ben is going to play a Springleaf Drum, and now he's thinking about using Ornithopter and Springleaf Drum to fire up Inkmoth Nexus. He'll actually use Blinkmoth Nexus to do it, now attack with all of these creatures. So 2 more infects and 3 regular damage means that Andrew Jessup is going to be at 4 infect and 16 regular damage.
If Andrew's playing this game is Sidemaster Thopterus, the life gain from Vault Scourge could end up coming into play at some point this game. Normally, life gain effects not very relevant against Ironworks, but Sidemaster Thopterus is a pretty major sideboarded game plan, and lifelink could become a factor.
We're going to go back over to Andrew J now. Todd's got a feeling he's got a Psy in his hand. There's a Grove of the Burn Willows. Andrew is tapping 3 mana and taking a damage.
What?
Wow, would you look at that? Sidemaster Thopterus.
Nah.
Shocking, I know.
Mox Opal, that's the game.
Yep.
That's it. That's all of it.
That's Artifact. That's a combo.
Yeah.
Mox Opal's Artifact 2 and the Thopter's Artifact 3. I get it. I get it now.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Nick Miller's Artifact 4?
Oh. No, Nick Miller's Artifact 3. Nick Miller actually turned on.
Sure.
Nick Miller turned on the Mox, and now Chrome Star is here to make another Thopter. Is this an okay? Well.
Okay, now you're just showing off, dude.
Yep.
Come on. What are you doing?
Crack this Chrome Star, draw a card.
Oh, Drew a Sphere.
Yep.
I'm going to play that one.
Yep.
Gonna make another thing.
Well,
turn.
This is tough for, this is like a Lingering Souls, but worse.
Wait, hold on. You have that on your bingo board, right?
What, discard Lingering Souls?
Oh, no, yeah. Sorry. This is way better.
Yeah, well, no, what I mean, but this is worse for Ben, is what I mean. Yeah, it's like a million times worse.
Both are bad.
Yeah.
This is worse.
Like, if you're playing Affinity and someone casts Lingering Souls, you're just like, it's so hard. Yeah, he's just going to concede. He can't win. He can't beat Psy. Andrew Jessup's going to win this game and match over Ben Ragan 2-0. Ironworks will take care of Affinity. You called it, Todd. You felt there was a Psy in hand, and there's a Psy for Ben Ragan.
Yeah, I was going to say.